Hey everyone, it's Miss MK with Boys and Girls Club. So today I'm going to show you how to cook fresh pasta, which you may have seen me make in a previous video, making the pasta dough from scratch. I'm specifically making this video because you treat the process with cooking that dough a little bit differently than you would with the hard and dry pasta that you get from the store. However, if you've bought fresh pasta from a store, a restaurant, a local vendor, follow their instructions because they know their pasta. I'm doing this one for pasta that you've made at home already. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to do. So this is my pasta. It's not very much since I had to use mine. I'm using mine for my previous demo. It's probably going to be about double this when you actually have all of your dough rolled out the way that you want to. Making sure, of course, that it's as thin as you can possibly get it, even if it's by hand, which mine was done, so it may not be as super thin as I can get it, but I did my absolute best. And making sure that as many of the pasta pieces are about the same size and shape, so that way they have an even, they cook about evenly in the cooking process. And of course you're going to want to have a little bit of salt on hand, which you're going to use to flavor your water in just a moment, but let's check this part out. So you definitely want to fill your pot about halfway to 3/4 of the way full with water. And you're going to turn it on to a medium-high heat like you see here to create this rolling boil that you're looking at. So instead of it just being like one or two bubbles that are slightly coming to the surface, a rolling boil has bubbles that are constantly coming up. And in order to keep that like movement going, which is going to be really good for the pasta and keep it from sticking together. Now, of course, you can add or subtract water as you want in this process, just making sure that you have enough that's going to allow your pasta to be fully submerged under it. Especially because when you keep in mind that when you have it at the heat that it's going at, it's going to go from a liquid state to a gaseous state as it heats up, and it's going to evaporate a little bit. So what you're going to do then is add about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt. Of course, add it according to your diet and your taste because you're mainly putting it in there so that the water takes on that flavor and that the pasta can take on that flavor once it's in there. Then you will go ahead and put your pasta in, making sure that's fully submerged like you see there. And the boil is still kind of going. It's lessened a little bit, but you want to make sure that you try and keep that boil as much as you can. So if you need to turn up the heat a little bit more, go ahead. And of course, you can stir with a spatula or a fork, whatever you think will work best for you in order to make sure you keep that pasta moving. So although this pasta cooks really, really quickly, it cooks in about 2 to 3 minutes or so compared to dry pasta, which can take on about 8 to 12 minutes, give or take. We are watching for this. You're going to keep an eye on this one since it cooks relatively quickly. Now, as you can tell, my pasta is already kind of moving up more towards the surface, and you're seeing it go and roll against that rolling boil, which is really good. Which is a really good thing to see. So once you get to a point where you are watching your pasta, one of the best tips that I've always been told is that with fresh pasta, you're most likely to tell that it'll be done or closer to done when it floats to the surface. And so we may or may not get through that in this time frame, but we're going to try and see. So another cool tip that's going to be helpful for this process is that a lot of times we use sauces or different meats, vegetables, cheeses, things like that when it comes to making pasta. So what you can do to kind of help with this is take on a little bit of, without getting the noodles, take on a little bit of that pasta water and save it for your sauces. It takes on the starch that is coming off the noodles, and it takes in the salt that has already been put in the water to kind of act as a thickener for your sauces. So my pasta is definitely moving a little bit more. I'm going to dump it out because I think it might be kind of close to done. But of course, if you think that it needs to be a little bit more firm or a little bit softer in your mouth, cook it for less or more time. The 2 to 3 minute range is it's a general gauge. And of course, what you're going to do then at that point is that you will strain your pasta. And there you have it. You can pair it then with anything else that you like. So I hope you enjoy your pasta and have fun with your food.